For the beats, for the love, for the alcohol, for the party. One time like, okay. Letting the kick ride, letting the snare roll, letting the bottle pour, cups in the airflow. Love what you hear though, everything blap. Feel like the beat is everything, well then everything's back. Letting the speakers blast, letting the beats run. Word to the crate digging, word to machine drums. Get used to it as we proceed. Black radio for the lover, just the beats. Everything is blap, everything is blap, everything is blap. Yeah, everything is blap. The kick gon' knock, the snare gon' crack, and everything is blap, everything is blap. Everything is blap, everything is blap, everything is blap, yeah, everything is blap. The bottle gon' pour, the speakers gon' crack, and everything is blap, everything is blap, everything is blap.
BLAPCHAT, 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 BLAPCHAT. We're here, baby. Yeah. Let that shit ride. Let it ride. Let it ride. All right. Welcome to another episode of BLAPCHAT. I go by the name of Illmind. That intro is not as epic without my co-hosts here. Shout to my co-hosts, Atlas the Plug, Glam, Love Perfection. They couldn't make it today. Multiple things going on right now, so we're dolo here. I go by the name of Illmind. And welcome to BLAPCHAT. This is episode... I'm so off right now. I don't know what episode it is right now. 112? Maybe. Let's see. Let's look it up. Yeah, I think it's episode 112. But regardless, welcome to BLAPCHAT, man. First of all, I want to shout out all of our subscribers, all of our listeners, all of the producers and creators out there. Shout to you guys, man. You know, thank you guys so much for showing us so much love over the years, over all of these hundreds of episodes. You know, you guys have been tuned in, paying attention, you know, hopefully taking away some gems, some jewels, and applying, you know, some of this stuff to your own pursuits and your own career. So shout to you guys, man. You know, whether you're subscribed on YouTube or SoundCloud, you know, wherever you're listening right now, we appreciate you. So thank you so much. And we're here, man. BLAPCHAT, another episode. And, you know, there's so many things that are happening right now. I'm really excited about 2020. We're closing in on the end of 2019. And it's been a really insane journey, amazing ride. Really another super impactful year. You know, obviously we've lost a lot of amazing talent. You know, rest in peace, Juice WRLD, most recently. You know, so it's been a really impactful year on the positive and the you know, negative side of things as well. But you know, prayers go out to all the soldiers, man, that fell this year. But we're gonna keep their legacies alive, man, and keep this thing going. So first of all, shout out to all the creators out there. We are going into 2020, and a couple announcements that I made recently that I want to share with you guys. One being that I am hitting the road again in 2020 for my official BLAP Sessions 2020 tour, formerly known as Pass the Aux. We switched the name to BLAP Sessions. Makes perfect sense. I probably should have called it BLAP Sessions in the beginning. But so we're going on tour. I'm going to different cities every month, starting in February of next year. And if you've been living under a rock and you're like, what the fuck is he talking about? I'll quickly explain to you what we're doing. So for the past 3 years, I've been visiting different cities every month. And basically what I'll do is I'll book a private studio space, and I'll invite a small handful of upcoming music producers, artists, creative people into the studio. And we basically spend 5-6 hours together. You get to come in and literally plug the aux in and play your music. I give you feedback, give you some constructive criticism. We talk about your aspirations, what you're trying to accomplish, and we sort of create this like intimate dialogue setting in the studio. And it's really it's really hard to fully understand and appreciate how amazing these meetups have been if you haven't been to yet. So I'm hitting the road again next year in February. Starting in February, I'm going to start February 17th. I'm going to Phoenix, Arizona. And then on February 18th and 19th, I'll be in Los Angeles. March, I'm doing Miami, Florida, Orlando, Florida, and then New York City, of course. In April, I'll be coming to New Orleans, Houston, Texas, and Austin, Texas. In May, I'll be coming to the Midwest. I can't wait. Minneapolis, Milwaukee, and Chicago, I'm pulling up. And then in June, I'm going overseas. We're going to do 2 dates in London, 1 in Berlin, and then 1 in Milan, Italy, which I'm very, very excited about. So if you hear your city and you're interested in pulling up, if you're a producer and you want to meet your peers, you want to meet me, you want to get inspired, get empowered, sign up for the BLAP sessions. You can go to my website right now, illmindproducer.com, to sign up. And in addition to that, I think at this point you maybe know about it, but I recently dropped my own app. I'm gonna give myself another air horn because I'm feeling really, really excited about it. So I created an app available on the Apple Store and on the Android Store, and it's called Illmind Connect. And I've been working on this thing for a while. Really, really, really excited to have rolled that out. So if you haven't downloaded my app yet and you're listening to this, do that right now. It's completely free. It's called Illmind Connect. You're probably wondering, all right, what does the app do? So basically, I wanted to design an app and an environment where everything is sort of contained in one place. So within the app, you can do multiple things. So you can book your slot for BLAP sessions. You could purchase drum kits, which, by the way, are always going to be discounted on the app. So from now on, moving forward, you'll be getting unique discount codes that work in the app only that you can use to purchase BLAP kits. There's also some really great inspiration content on there. One of my favorite features of the app is the push notification feature where, every other day, sometimes every day, I get to send you guys a push notification of inspirational quotes and just inspiration in general, BLAP tips, motivation, just stuff to keep you on your toes and, hopefully help push you and stay motivated throughout the week. So you guys are going to get those push notifications through the app as well. And just some really cool content. I'm going to be writing more blogs. And also, too, if you are a member of my elite club, the Illmind Platinum Club, you can log into your club directly into the app to take advantage of more of the new free stuff that my club members receive as well. So a lot of goodies on my app. Definitely appreciate all the guys and girls out there that have downloaded the app, all you guys that are enjoying the app. Hope you guys fuck with it. And if you don't have the app yet, go get it. It's called Illmind Connect, and grab that. It's free, and hopefully it inspires you and empowers you, right? So, a lot going on. I haven't done a solo episode in a while, but I've been getting some really good feedback. The last time I did this, I think it might have been episode 99 or 98, and it was really just sort of this like stream of consciousness where it was just me sort of going completely in on a lot of the stuff we talk about on this podcast. And the majority of you guys that are listening right now are music producers, music, artists, creators, maybe even just curious about music. But, the majority of you guys are up and coming. And, to a certain extent, we're all sort of up and coming. But when I say up and coming, I'm, kind of referring to, you're a music producer and you're trying to, figure out how to generate some income. You want to turn this into a career, and you want to sort of explore the different methodologies and tactics and marketing strategies to get you closer to reaching those goals. And that's sort of the basis of what this podcast is. But, lately I've been really thinking deeply about my own career and what it was like for me in the beginning, those first 1, 2, 3, 5, 6 years of wanting to pursue music production, not having, many relationships in the industry, not sort of knowing where to maneuver or how to build relationships, how to network, how to start generating some income. All of these things in the beginning were very confusing, and there weren't too many resources for knowledge. And so I think about 2019 and I think about moving into 2020, and I look at the status of the production community and the types of resources that we have now compared to 10 years ago, and it's pretty fucking remarkable and fascinating. And so I've been thinking about this a lot lately, thinking about the types of things that I did when I was coming up that helped me and hurt me as well, and how those specific strategies, and I don't even want to call them strategies, I'll call them mindsets, how those mindsets are still so very relevant today, even with all this technology. So I'll start here. The first thing that we should maybe, shed some light on is the fact that now in 2019 going into 2020, I think there's no doubt that there are so many resources and so much information regarding the music production pursuit, the music production ecosystem. There's YouTube tutorials, there's blogs, there's, stuff that I do, and different, influencers that also feed, the community information. We have drum kits and sample loops at our disposal that are affordable, that could help with our craft. We have technology that's relatively free or relatively affordable. So, the art of music production nowadays is so much more accessible than it was 10, 15 years ago. And I think that's a good starting point, because the first thing I think we should pay attention to and realize is that there are no more excuses, okay? The idea that anybody can have great drum sounds, anybody can download loops, we can even, trigger chord progressions without knowing how to play a piano. Anybody could start an Instagram page, Twitter page, Facebook page, BeatStars page for relatively cheap or free. And you can really take matters into your own hands and get things going. So the first thing I want to look at is the fact that it's very easy to just start to gain momentum in the beginning and to just, get your foot in the door and establish your presence, right? And if you're not doing those basic things in the beginning, then you're not headed into the trajectory of success. So at the very baseline of things, if you're an upcoming music producer or creator, the first thing is that you should have the right equipment, the right software, and you should focus on your craft. So to me, step number one would be focus your energy and time into the craft, creating music, right? And that's no different than it was 10 years ago, 15 years ago. When I was in that stage and when I first started, obviously I didn't have YouTube, I didn't have the resources, but what I did have was the drive and the passion and the intent to say, you know what, I'm gonna purchase and I'm going to acquire the minimum amount of hardware and software that will allow for me to make music, right? And for me back then, it was a keyboard, a computer, and records, right? And so I would go to the dollar bin and whatever little money I had, I would buy, old records and sample those and manipulate those. But I also had time, right? I allocated my time into working on my craft. So that the whole idea of investing your time and utilizing whatever little resources you have is still no different than it is today. Today, the only difference is it's just a lot easier to do that. You don't have to go to eBay and purchase a $1,500 keyboard anymore. You can have a computer with, a free program or a DAW that's relatively affordable, and you can get that going. So I would say, man, one of the most powerful things I think that we can all do as music producers is let's simplify what we're doing, and I want to see more simplification and less complication, right? I think the gift and the curse with all of this information that's out here is that it's just so much information, so much strategy, so many different avenues that we can do. We can do ClickFunnels, we can do BeatStars, we can lease, we can do exclusives, we can do Instagram ads and Facebook ads and retargeting and email lists, and there's so much shit out there that everybody is just being bombarded with in terms of strategy and marketing and all this. And don't get me wrong, a lot of that stuff is great. Okay, and you should do your research and explore that stuff. But I think we're forgetting probably the most important thing about being a music producer. It's keeping it simple, getting your ass in the fucking studio, and just making music. Just make the music. I wish there was a statistic that sort of showed how many music producers are in the studio and how much time they're spending on their phone, or how much time they're spending thinking about marketing, or how much time they're spending watching YouTube tutorials as opposed to spending time creating music. And I think that number is probably staggering. And I think that number is probably pretty scary. I would go as far as to say that there's a lot of creators out there that are just so distracted right now. It's directly impacting and affecting the actual music and the actual process of making music. And I'm saying that because it happens to me too, right? When I'm in the studio creating, I still sort of try to maintain this habit of putting all distractions aside and really focusing on creating music and getting into, what we like to call flow state, right? And I think flow state is literally, in my opinion, should always be the goal and should be the priority as a creator. All of the greatest minds that have ever lived, all of the most legendary people that have walked the earth in the past 2, 3, 4, 5,000 years, research has shown that every single one of these people has functioned under this flow state, right? And I don't want to get too deep into the brain and stuff because I'm not a professional, but I've done a lot of research and I've seen, read up on a lot of, different types of people, and I sort of compare that to my trajectory and what I'm doing. And, there's these different states that the brain is in. There's conscious, and then there's beta, and there's theta, and you keep going deeper and deeper into these states, mind states. And one of the most powerful mind states to be in is called flow. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, flow is sort of this mind state where, the brain sort of shuts down the conscious sort of everyday tasks as a priority, and it sort of it's rewired, and your energy goes into the moment, and your energy goes into being in flow. And it's the same thing as, playing the keyboard and finding a nice sound or piano riff that you want to kind of build off of, or getting in your DAW and programming drums and switching hi-hat patterns, really being focused on one task. And that's the same as if you were, let's say, a chef and you're in the kitchen and you're putting a dish together, and it's like you've been there for 3 hours and you've made 15 different 15 of the same dish 15 times, one by one, and you're sort of in this flow state where your mind is kind of on autopilot, right? And most times when people are in flow state, it feels good, it feels natural. If you feel like you're accomplishing something, you feel like you're working towards something, and you feel like there's some type of like payoff at the end of it, right? And for us as music producers, the payoff is a beat. For artists, the payoff is a song, right? And so that's why music is so powerful, because it's really easy for us to put ourselves into flow state without knowing that we're in flow state. So being in flow is extremely important. I think most, if not all of you guys that are listening to this right now or watching this right now that create music have been in flow state without even knowing that you were, which is also a good thing. But just know that when you're in that flow and you're in there creating music, that is the state of mind, and that is the type of energy that you want to try to chase after and prioritize for most of the time, right? And like I said, I did that for the first, at least for the first 5 years, 6 years. It was 90% of my day and 90% of my priorities were focused on getting into flow state, getting in the studio, creating music, whether it's a loop or chopping a sample or programming drums or making beats or collaborating with people. It was always just flow. Everything is flow. And the other, 10, 15% of it was marketing, strategy, all that stuff. And, knock on wood, it worked out for me. And the funny thing about it is, despite how far I've come and how long I've been doing this and whatever level of success I've reached, it's still the same with me. May have shifted a little bit, but for the most part, and I say this in interviews all the time, 90% of my energy and priority and time goes into being in flow state, meaning 90% of my time I'm in the studio creating something. Creation, the idea of creating something puts me into flow. The other 10% is BLAP sessions. The other 10% is the podcast, engaging with my Platinum Club members, creating drum kits, thinking of marketing strategies. I have such a deep passion for that stuff as well. And so I'm able to incorporate those things very easily into my daily life. And then, obviously my personal life as well. So, I say all this to say that, I think what we want to do moving forward and what we all should try is let's simplify things. Let's not be too overwhelmed by the strategies, the funnels, the fucking this, the YouTube tutorials, this, that. Like, if making music and being a music producer is what you want to do, and if that's what brings you the most joy, then there's no reason why you shouldn't be prioritizing yourself to get in the studio and create and be in flow state. And I know that sounds so simple, but that's the whole point. It doesn't have to be complicated, right? That there is no complicated answer to how to become a successful music producer. The simplest idea is the answer, and the answer is get in the studio, make music, get into flow state, and don't worry so much about the strategy and the marketing. And I'm not saying to not pay attention to it and not put energy into it, but don't let the marketing funnel strategy, this, that, consume your mind from, taking away from the actual creative and the actual thing that you are. There's this sort of concept that I've been kind of talking about a lot recently, and it's the idea of how every, small decision that we make every day all adds up to what we become, right? And so life is really just this sort of journey of moments, right? There's 24 hours in a day. Let's say, you wake up at 8 a.m. So from 8 a.m., that starts your day. And from that point moving forward for the rest of your day, you're experiencing these micro moments, right? We like to call them micro moments. Getting up from bed, going to the bathroom to, wash up, brush my teeth, do all that stuff. Whatever you do in the morning, that's a micro moment. That might take you 15 minutes. And then I walk to the kitchen and I make myself a cup of coffee. That might take 5 minutes. That's another micro moment. And then after I make coffee, maybe I walk my dog, right? Maybe that'll take 15 minutes. That's another micro moment, right? After I walk my dog, I come back upstairs. Maybe I jump on the computer for a little bit for like 30 minutes. That's another micro moment. After I jump on the computer, I go take a shower, 15, 20 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever it is, another micro moment. After I shower, I go pick out my clothes, what I want to wear for that day, try some stuff on, another micro moment. I get dressed for the day. Maybe I hit the studio and I'm spending, another 1 to 2 hours, 3 hours in the studio. That's another micro moment. After I'm in the studio, I take a break. I go take a walk, have some lunch. Maybe that takes 30 minutes to an hour, or I order some food. Another micro moment. So all of our days are spent in micro moments, whether you're going to school or you have a job or you work from home, whatever your situation is, kids, whatever, micro moments. So you think about, okay, I'm looking at all these micro moments in my day, and I'm thinking about every micro moment that I've spent every day for the past, let's just say 6 months. So if you go back 6 months and you think about all of those micro moments for the past 6 months, there's certain things that you do every day. There's certain things that you do once a week. There's certain things you may have done once a month. But you really look at it and you get to look at it like under a microscope and you say, okay, what are some of the micro moments? What are some of the things that I did most often in the past 6 months? And when you look at those and you look at the top thing in the list, well, you have the everyday stuff like, I took a shower every day, or I ate food every day, or I did this every day. Well, maybe you made beats every day. Maybe in the past 6 months, one of your micro moments that you spent 3 to 4 hours every day was you were in the studio in flow state making music. And so you fast forward and you look at all this stuff and you say, okay, I did all this in the past 6 months. And then you start to list all the things that you did every day. And, if you're an aspiring music producer and you can look at your micro moments and you say, okay, I only made music for about 2 to 3 hours per week. That's not enough to become a music producer, right? And then so at that point, you're able to really hold it under a microscope and dissect your micro moments and start to adjust your life, start to adjust your priorities and say, you know what? For the past 6 months, I didn't spend enough time making music. So for the next 6 to 12 months, I'm going to really take initiative and I'm going to shift my priorities. I'm going to shift my micro moments and I'm going to start to spend more time during the day being in flow state and getting in the studio or writing a song or learning an instrument, whatever it is. So that's a, I think that's a super powerful way to sort of think about where you want to go. And that goes really in line with yet, another sort of concept that I've been talking about probably for the past year, is, your future is hidden in your daily routine, right? And so you can sort of fortune tell your future and where you potentially could end up by the things that you do every day, right? Your everyday habits, your everyday actions, everyday micro moments. So I think this is hugely important and impactful, especially for us creators, because I don't think we realize how much time we're wasting every day, or how little effort that we're actually putting in to contributing to becoming a successful, music producer or successful fill in the blank, right? So this is just some stuff we got to think about. I think if we go a little bit deeper on it, we can say, okay, well, I know what I have to do, but why am I not doing it? Right. And I think that's a really powerful question that you want to ask yourself is, everyone knows how to do it. I think at this point, most people know what they have to do. If I want to lose weight, I know what I have to do. I got to go to the gym. But why am I not going to the gym? That's how deep rooted, we can go. I know that if I want to learn how to play guitar, I have to start practicing playing the guitar. Well, I know what I have to do. I'm just not doing it. So I think, you guys want to really think about why you're not doing something and dig a little bit deeper and ask yourself, why am I not doing it? I know what I have to do, but for whatever reason, I'm not. So you have to really dig deep. And I think for music production specifically, I think it's very simple. If you want to be a music producer, you know what you have to do. Step number one, and which will always be the most important, in my opinion, the most important step and the most important micro moment is that you have to get in that studio and just make music. Just make music. Make music. Throw the distractions away. Put your phone in another room. Don't think about how many beats you're going to make. Don't think about how many sample loops you're going to make. You can set goals and stuff. That's fine. But don't get caught up in the technical or or make it more complicated than it is. Keep it simple. Go back to the roots always. Get your ass in the fucking studio and spend time in there. Get yourself into flow state and just make music. Make music, prioritize that, and worry about the strategy later. The strategy stuff pisses me off. We're ODing. It's being over complicated. It's a conversation but we're putting way too much energy and attention to the strategy, but no one's making the music. You're not making the music though. You can have the ClickFunnels shit set up. You can have the beat stars. Where's the music? All right, you might have the music, but is the music good? Well, the music's not good because you're not in flow state enough in your day to become good at making music. So let's shift our thinking a little bit in what we're doing, and let's take these gems and these strategies and definitely pay attention to them. But all I'm saying is don't let it overwhelm and consume you, because there's a fascinating thing that happens when you create music, you put yourself in flow state, and you approach everything like an experiment. The answers sort of come in real time. the strategies that you're looking for and the marketing and the people you want to meet and all this stuff, those things sort of manifest themselves in real time. But it starts with making the music. So I'm really excited about our guest today. He's one of, my good friends in the industry. I've met this guy back in 2003, I want to say, when, we were just kids trying to make it. And, I found his music online and we hit it off and we ended up connecting, and we actually even created an album together called The Art of One Mind. And, I really look up to this guy. He's hugely successful, been on the grind for a long time. He's one of the best music producers in the industry today. And I'm not just saying that because he's a good friend of mine. He's produced records like Power for Kanye West, done stuff on Watch the Throne, worked with Madonna, Eminem, 50 Cent. I mean, there's so many names, and he's so diverse. So I want to pick his brain, talk to him a little bit about, the journey. He's also releasing a book, which I'm super excited to read, called Pray, Focus, Plan, Execute. I believe he releases the book next year, but I think it's up for pre-sale now. But we'll talk about that. One of the most amazing human beings that I've ever met. So I want to welcome to you guys my dude Symbolyc One. All right, I'm over here connected with my good friend, like I just said, one of my favorite producers of all time, Symbolyc One. Big round of applause for S1. Yeah. Did you hear those? Good, y'all. Did you hear those air horns real quick? Yeah. Yeah.
No, I didn't hear the air horns. Okay. But I heard the flaps.
Okay, good. We threw some air horns in there too. So I'm actually here by myself today, so it's just me and you. Okay. So the convo is going to be very, very intimate, and I want to dig into a lot of stuff. Obviously, for those who don't know, Symbolyc One, we did have you on the podcast years ago. Yeah. And obviously a lot has transpired since then, a lot more. So I'm really excited about today. So let's just start here, man. First of all, thank you for taking the time out, joining.
Yeah, appreciate you having me, bro.
For sure, man. So let's start with this. For those who sort of don't know, I'm assuming most of you guys listening right now probably do, but for those that don't, give them a little introduction. Where you're from, and I just want to go ahead and put you on the spot. Just like drop some of the records that you've produced in your amazing career thus far.
Oh, wow. So yes, I go by the name of S1. That's short for Symbolyc One. I am a 2-time Grammy winning producer.
Air horn.
I'm from a small city called Waco, Texas. And most of y'all probably know Waco from two things, either Baylor University or David Koresh, and the Branch Davidians. And I was not part of any of those. So I'm from a small city, man, and I just love music. I've been producing for quite some time now, since I want to say the year, like 1995. I've been that's when I first started to pursue music and start to get into the art of production. And some of the records I produce, most people probably know me most for co-producing Power by Kanye. I've produced Murder to Excellence with Swiss Beats for Kanye and Jay, the Watch the Throne album. Beyonce's Best Thing I Never Had. I produced songs for Lupe, Madonna, Gladys Knight, Keisha Cole, Drake, so many.
A few. I've heard of them before. They have those people have a little buzz.
Yeah, they have a little bit of buzz.
Well, I know it's always like so. semi uncomfortable, like having to say that, you know, because
it always is.
Yeah, because like it's so crazy because like it doesn't necessarily, like in your mind, I'm sure, like it doesn't define who you are because you're just so like sort of in the moment and like moving forward onto the next thing, right?
That's correct.
Yeah. So obviously you're multi Grammy winner. You've been in so many rooms, seen a lot, and one of my favorite things about, you know, your production is that you're so diverse. You're so diverse. And so in doing this for so long, you know, and just for some context, for those listeners, you know, I met S1 back in like 2003. We known each other since, and you know, so we got to know each other sort of early on. And in that era, there was a specific sort of like sound and style that I think we had similar interest in. Right? It was like that Jay Dilla sort of like soulful sound,
Pete Rock, Primo, all that. Yeah,
all that stuff. And fast forwarding to now, you know, even with a record like Power, all of your production is so diverse, and just so lush. So, you know, one big question that I get a lot is, you know, Illmind, how do you stay relevant, or you know, what's your sort of key to staying relevant and just being sort of like an active music producer and not being caught up in like being you know, labeled into one sort of like category? What's your strategy to step out of that? So I want to ask you, like, what's been sort of like some of the keys for you, having been in the game for more than 20 years and being so successful at it, and still to this day like being just as much, if not even more relevant than ever? What are some like simple go-to strategies that you think, or things that you've done?
Okay, that's a great question. So, and you probably have the same answer that I'm about to say, but it's mainly two things. The first thing I would say is just always wanting to learn. I never get to a point to where I feel like I figured it out, you know. So I'm always trying to learn new things and stay engaged and stay motivated to learn more, and you know, from anyone. And then the second thing I would say is keeping other creatives around me. You know, of course, like I have under my roof right now, I still have my youngest son, Von Beats, and the way he approaches music is different from the era I come from. So I'm learning from him. I have producers, you know, that sign up my production team as well. So they send me ideas. I'm able to listen and dissect, and even get on Skypes with them sometime if I have a question on, yo, how did you do this? Or what did you do to make this sound like this? So I'm constantly learning and constantly keeping just creative, dope people around me. And that's the way that I think that's the key to staying relevant.
I love it. And it's crazy because the actions speak louder than the words. You know, it's like you had a recent relatively recent placement with Eminem, and I'm seeing some of the same kind of co-producers, a lot of similar co-producers that you're working with now. Are those guys like kind of signed to you? Are those like some of the guys that you're working with closely?
Yeah. So I have a cat from Dallas, super talented dude by the name of Lone Star Music. I signed him like a year and a half ago, so I worked really strong with him. Jamil Asi, he's been on the team for a minute, so I work really strongly with him. And then of course, like my guy Epic Pro, he's no longer signed to me. I signed him around 2012, 2013. But, you know, we was able to still just have a really good relationship. So we just still work together all the time, you know. And then another guy, Kelvin Wooten, who's amazing. I think he came to one of your BLAPs too.
Sure,
but I actually met him. He came to my assembly, my S1 assembly that I did in Atlanta. And he played me his music. And I already in my mind, I knew that, okay, I'm going to be working with this guy.
Wow.
Some form, and I'm going to incorporate him some type of way into what I have going, and we've been working together ever since. So I kind of gravitate towards, you know, I'm really big on collaboration, as I know you are as well. But if I hear something and it's interesting to me, I have no problem with grabbing people and giving people opportunities. That's just that's just a part of me and what I love to do. That's kind of just one of the things that I kind of gravitate toward, is just working with other people, because not only am I helping them, in the process of me helping them, they're also helping me as well.
I love it. So how important do you think it is to apply that mindset as an upcoming producer? Obviously you're at Symbolyc One, you have a name, you have credits, you're Grammy winning. Do you think it's justifiable for, let's say, an upcoming music producer with a couple years under their belt that's, relatively good at what they do, but also would it be valuable for that producer to sort of approach it in a similar way, where they're finding people to collaborate with, and not necessarily signing people to them, but maybe finding, a core group of people that they enjoy working with? Do you think that could be valuable for an up and comer to do as well? Absolutely.
And that's strictly just networking across the board, as opposed to networking with people that's, it's similar to us. Like, look at us, like we started back around, knowing when we first met back in 2002, 2003. And look at us now, like that time spent of us collaborating with each other and doing a project together and working with different artists together. Like, now look where we're at now, but it's not a sense of me hopping on your coattail when you're at this level. It's building with people that you have a connection with. So I feel like there's so much value in building with other like-minded people and build and grow together, as opposed to trying to grab somebody while they're at the top. Start at the bottom and you guys grow together and build together.
Exactly. That's another thing that we sort of talk about a lot, is like networking across as opposed to networking upwards. So so in your experience, what's sort of like an example that you might have where you networked across, and then at some point years later it became sort of beneficial for both of you guys?
There's been so many situations with that. Even from me and you, starting back when we started in 2003, we just loved music and we were fans of each other, and we just worked together and we built together. Yep. So to see where we are now, it's crazy, because we were steady elevating and growing along the way, as opposed to waiting till someone get at a certain level and then try to jump on.
Exactly.
So I felt like that's important. But also, like, around that time when I started doing the producer showcases, it was the same thing. It was being at these showcases and meeting people and building relationships. So when I got to a certain status, they were able to easily bring me in on projects because I was building a rapport with them early on, prior to either one of us getting to a certain status in the industry. Right.
Man, and I know we kind of dove into that when you were on the podcast like 3 years ago. So I don't want to do that again, but that is so powerful and amazing, and I remember those moments, the shout to iStandard, like the iStandard battles, and then just
money, big up Shy Money, and it's so many people I can name. Dre and Tony at G Unit. Just so many people that we were able to meet early on, in our careers.
Exactly. So, but before we spoke, earlier in the podcast, I was basically talking about, there's this quote that I've been sort of tossing around, and I've been like pretty obsessed with it for the past year. And it's basically, the quote goes, your future is hidden in your daily routine.
Daily routine. Right? Yes, I love that.
Yeah, too. I love that quote. And so I think about that, and I'm like watching, there's different guys that I really admire, like Tom Bilyeu and Joe Dispenza and so many of these guys. And they talk about this a lot, the idea of thinking about what you spend the most time on throughout the day, and sort of treating every action sort of like micro moments where, you know, this whatever series of events happens in one particular day, if you do that, you know, every day, day after day, that sort of adds up into this like big picture, right? And
Absolutely.
so, you know, being that you've been, you know, in the industry for a while, you know, more than 2 decades, and you've been basically creating music, I'm going to go as far as to assume almost every day since 95, you know,
Yeah.
you know, so in doing that, what are some of the just like really simple kind of, you know, routines and just mindsets that you were able to apply within those years to allow for you to say, you know what, I have school or work or kids or responsibilities, but I'm able to, dedicate enough time to just being in the studio to create. So how are you able to manage to like do that for so long, just get in the studio and make music?
Man, I think it's and I actually speak about this in my book quite a bit, but I think it's being able to like focusing is so important because it's the ability to block out any distractions or anything that pulls you away from your goal or your dream. And I think even now in today's time, there's so many distractions, man, from social media and on your phone and people wanting to, you know, do this with you or pull you this way. And you have to be, you have to get to a point to where you can shut out the noise. And what I mean by that is to be able to have this laser sharp focus on what the goal is or what you're trying to do, and anything else that comes along your way. And things will come because there's always things, just life in general, that life throws at you. You know, but it's being able to saying, okay, I have a commitment to this, and no matter what comes my way, I'm going to honor this commitment, and I'm going to not let it pull me away from it. And I think that's one of the main things. And there's a certain amount of self-discipline that comes with that. And I think that's probably one of the key things that when you look at people that's successful and people that's not, I bet the successful people has a certain amount of self-discipline that keeps them aligned with their goals, tasks, and to-dos to get it done, regardless of what happens.
Wow. That was like literally a mirror image, sort of like well explained version of sort of like what I was just talking about a few minutes ago before you jumped on. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's so crazy, like how principles work.
Mm-hmm.
It's the application of principles work. It's just being able to do it consistently over a period of time. And most people fall off. They'll start something. It's the same thing with New Year's resolutions. You have so many people that's like, hey, this is my goal. I'm gonna start out doing it, but then after 2 weeks or a month, they're not doing it anymore.
Yeah.
So if there's a certain threshold that once you pass, it becomes habit, and you just do it because it's habit now. But a lot of people don't reach that threshold, and they fall off of doing it when and if they only knew that, just if they were just consistently doing it over a period of time, then things will really start to happen for it. And it's just applying principles every day.
Yeah. That's so interesting because I feel like even now going into 2020, you know, compared to when me and you first started, there's so many more resources. There's so much information. You have YouTube tutorials, you have, you know, seminars that you do and that I do. And there's just so much amazing information. So I think now, and I want your opinion on this, you know, I feel like now the information is there. So I think that by default, most producers have a pretty good idea and know what they have to do. It's almost like if I want to get in shape, I know exactly what I have to do. I have to go to the gym. But then you can get deeper, like, well, do I do Pilates? Do I do treadmill? Do I do, you know, weights? Do I do Soul Cycle? Whatever. Pick your poison. The fact is that you have to work out. So I know what I have to do, but most people don't do it. Right?
They don't do it.
And so I think it's the same with the music production community, where most of us know what we have to do, but a lot of us just manage not to do it. So in doing this for so long, what are some like core values, or maybe even just practical things that you've incorporated in your life that allowed for you to not only have the discipline, but to turn this into a habit, like a good habit, being in the studio, creating music, getting creative, learning more? What are some things that you sort of could apply?
I think it's all about just changing your mindset. I think mindset is the difference between getting things done and being in that space to be able to be able to change that or to get it done or not. And what I mean by that, like, for instance, about, I would say 5 or 6 months ago, man, I went through this. It was just a tough time for me, and just a really low moment because I was so off to where I needed to be. So what I did, I was kind of just sick of where I was at the moment, like career-wise, life-wise, and I was like, yo, I got to make a change. So I did like a self-discipline challenge, you can even call it. So what I was doing was, okay, I was waking up at 6 every morning again, and I was like, no matter when this alarm goes off at 6, I'm going to be up. So 6 o'clock, waking up, first thing I would do every morning is work out. So I go to the gym every morning, and so that was getting my physical, that was training my physical and getting me in a better space as far as my body. And another thing I did, usually when I work out, like, I'm a music lover, so I'm always listening to music. I always have my headphones on, or if I'm in the car, I'm listening to music. Another thing I did was cut music out. And when I said every time I want to listen to music, whether it's working out or driving, I'm going to listen to a positive podcast instead. So I started doing that. And while I was doing that every day, I was retraining my mind, just getting information and really just realigning my mindset and getting that. So I was doing that. And then the last thing I was doing is, I'm a big sugar fanatic.
Oh,
so
me and you
love
both.
Sweets. Yeah, man, I love sweets. And I was like, okay, I'm going to cut sugar cold turkey.
Wow.
So I did that. I cut out sugar, and I wind up losing, like, the first month I wound up losing like 20 pounds.
Wow.
I had so much clarity in my mind. I was able to, like, communicate what I was thinking, even with more efficient. And I just felt great. I've had more energy because I was working out every day. And that kind of, after that 30 days, I was like, okay, I'm just going to do this. So I'm at like 60 days now, a little over 60 days, because I just continued it because I love the results from it. And
I'm going to use air horn. That's amazing. Amazing discipline, dude.
And it actually gave me more clarity on things that I'm working on now, for, like, instance, my book and projects that I'm working on. Because it was like, oh, if I commit to doing this, then you actually do get results from being consistent every day. So it's like applying these same principles to where on these things that I saw results in, applying them to anything that I want to accomplish, and things just happen and things just work. And even in the process of doing that, when I started to align myself back with doing these things, everything else started to come through. I started getting calls from people like, yo, Cole hit me like, yo, come out, one session for you. Then I get email come through, yo, you got a placement on this. So everything kind of shifted. And I was like, whoa, like, this is crazy. Because prior to that, everything was like crickets to me. It was like, and it was scary. It was like, oh, I got to change, because it just feels like I'm out of alignment with where I'm supposed to be. Wow. So once I made those hard adjustments, like, everything kind of got back on track. Wow,
amazing. And that's that's what I like to call that little X variable, X factor, which you can call, faith and the universe and God and whatever it is. Like that's that higher power that you have no control over, and
you have no control over. Yep.
Wow.
Yep. And I always say, control what you have control over, and let God control the uncontrollable. And the controllable things is our self-discipline and us having focus and planting seeds and building relationships and positioning ourselves. The things we can't control is when things actually happen. Yeah. That's what, we can't control actually getting a placement or getting a number one on the Billboard or getting a Grammy nominations. We have no control over that thing. So that's not the things we should be focused on, but we should be focused on the things that we do have control over every day. And as we're applying that, God aligns himself with our actions, and he meets us halfway on that and starts to come through.
I love it. I love it. Can you imagine if we were all in control of getting a number one Billboard record? There would be a million number one spots because everyone would be in control.
Yeah, that's true.
The numbers don't add up.
Yeah.
Insane. How important do you think it is to incorporate joy into what you do in your everyday life? You know, I talk about this all the time where it's like, you know, if you ask yourself, okay, is this thing I'm about to do going to be enjoyable, or am I not going to enjoy this? And then you sort of decide and commit. How important is joy to you?
Oh man, it's probably the most important things. And I'm the type of person, like, that's just my personality. I have a no tolerance for just BS, you know, because I can't function like our energy is so important and so valuable. And that's one thing I learned with when I was signed to Kanye and being around him a lot. He didn't even have a phone. And I had the chance to ask him, like, yo, why don't you have a phone? He said, because I can't afford to get a message or a call from somebody that's going to completely mess up what I can create. And what I can create is the future. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, and it's the truth, because you can get people can send the wrong energy your way, and it can completely mess your vibe up to, you know, what you was going to make that day. Like, they can ruin that. And that could have been one of the ones that, you know, changed your whole family and changed your whole life and your whole family's life. But because somebody's energy interrupted that, it can change the whole, the
result.
Yeah, the whole result of that. And it's crazy when you think of it from that, in that detail of it changes their whole perspective. So at that point, it's like, okay, I have to protect my space and I have to protect my energy. The people who are around me have to be of positive, have positive attitudes and, you know, not be grumpy and just have a positive mindset. And I felt like that is like one of the most important things, is just surrounding yourself with other individuals that see the same thing and just have the same principles and morals and values and mindset as we do. Yeah.
Such a big fact. Man, oh my God. So I want to talk about the book. I'm super excited about it, man. Huge congrats on the book. Pray, focus, plan, execute. That's been the Symbolyc One mantra for a while. And so the book was sort of a natural progression. So tell us a little bit about the book, what we could expect, and when it actually comes out and stuff.
Yeah, so I'm excited about my book as well. It's called Pray, Focus, Plan, Execute, a memoir by S1. So it is a memoir, and that basically just it highlights real events and real people and my experiences. Basically, it's basically my story and my experiences. And what I did with this book is I wrote 21 chapters, and every chapter of the book highlights a specific special moment in my life and in my career. You know, so for instance, I have a chapter called Bey Stings, BEY Stings, and it highlights me working with Beyonce and the pressure that I was under working with Beyonce. You know, going into her flying me out to New York and going into the studio with her, and her telling me that she already had 75 songs for her album. And at that moment of hearing that, me having so much self-doubt of like, it's no way I'm going to make this album. She already has 75 songs, and defeating myself. But as that week progressed and I got into a rhythm and just really changed my mindset, coming out with not only making her album, but co-producing her second single as well. So each chapter is just highlighting a specific story, and I really dial into like what I'm feeling at the moment, what's going on within me, like my insecurities and self-doubt and how I overcame those moments, and just really let people inside the story and experience what I was experiencing during those times.
Wow, so amazing, and there's been a lot of those moments.
yes, man. I had a good time writing this book, man, because it's one of the things is I feel like, me personally, I didn't really enjoy a lot of these moments, because it was like, okay, one thing happened, what's next? And I was always focused on the next thing. So while writing this book, it was so therapeutic, because I was actually able to reflect on a lot of things that and a lot of blessings that God has blessed me with, and just some really amazing experiences that I've been blessed to have and experience throughout my life. So it was very therapeutic writing these journaling these stories.
Wow. I can't wait to read it. Is it available for pre-sale, or when does it drop?
So it's pre-orders are available now on my site, symbolicone.com.
Okay.
So you can go there, you can pre-order the book, and for pre-ordering, you get like 20% off the book. So it's like $16 for the hard copy. You'll get, when you receive the book, I did this like special custom packaging to make it more of like a collector's item. And those are pre-orders only. So that's what I'm doing, making it a little bit more special for people that pre-ordered before it actually released. Wow. And then within that pre-order custom box, I threw in some other goodies, which I'll let the people see once they actually get the book. But I threw in some more things for that. And then also they get a free chapter. So once you pre-order it, you'll get a free chapter from the book instantly to your email. And it's just in PDF format, so you can read a chapter of the book and kind of see what the format of the book is.
Wow. I love it. Make sure every single one of you guys listening to this right now should go get it. Let's get this thing to the #1 New York Times bestseller.
Yes,
you know what I'm saying?
That's what I want to hear.
Get that on there. Go to symbolicone.com.
Symbolicone.com.
So, man, the book, every one of you guys should definitely go check the book out. Get the pre-sale so you get the special additional bonus items, additional bonus chapter, get all that stuff. When is the actual release date for the book?
So the actual release date for the book is January the 15th of the new year.
Okay.
Yeah, it's January 15th. So pre-orders is up until the 15th or actually up until the 14th of January.
Amazing. So before we sort of wrap up here, obviously most of our listeners here are upcoming music producers, right? Mm-hmm. And nowadays there's just so many options, more than me and you had in 2003, 4, 5, 6, which is sort of a gift and a curse, right? So nowadays you have, I can lease beats on BeatStars. I can start my own website. I can do ClickFunnels. I can do email list. Maybe I can develop artists. Should I work with people exclusively? How much should I charge? Should I put beat tapes over on TuneCore? I think we're so overwhelmed by the amount of options we have. So, in your mind, in your symbolic one mind, what's some pieces of advice you can give to the upcoming producer to not feel overwhelmed by all of this? And what do you think are some core values and core mindsets that you think worked back in 2003 that you also believe work now moving forward with all these options? What are just some core values that you think producers should think about coming up?
That's actually a good question.
Yeah.
I think, because I deal with this too sometimes, like sometimes having too many options can affect you more than it helps you. And I know with me and the way I think, I have to keep things simple. Mm-hmm. When I'm working with too much, I suffer efficient wise, and also productivity, being productive. Right. I suffer from being productive as well. So I have to always step back and ask myself, what are the priorities? And that's from a creative standpoint, that's from a business standpoint, and that's from an overall standpoint, just life in general. Like, I have to minimize things and be able to tell myself, okay, for instance, let's just say creative wise, there's so many different plugins and VSTs, and I got to a point that where having too much, I would not even start things because it's like, okay, I don't know what to use, what I want to use or whatever. Yeah. And I have to get to a point to where it's like, okay, let me just favorite my top 3 VSTs and let me have a folder of the only plugins that I use. And let me have a folder with my 5 best drum sounds that I picked out from everybody's kits that I love to use. So at that point, nothing else matters but the things that I picked out. And because of that, I'm able to develop such a great workflow because my mind is not having to think as much. So I think with up-and-coming producers, it's being able to put yourself or put your mind in a space to where you don't have to think and overthink, because that's what happens. You start overthinking things. You have to put yourself in a space to where you can just not think about things and let things come organically and naturally. And like I said, that's creatively, that's in life in general, getting to that space sometimes is the hardest things because we don't want to let go of the hardest part is letting go of things, but you have to get to that point to where you can let go. Wow.
I love it. So powerful. And agreed 100%. Can't be overwhelmed. Too many options. So keep it simple.
Keep it simple.
Keep it simple.
And it's easier said than done.
Yes. Oh yeah.
It's easier said than done, man, because there's so much. I mean, we have access to so much. That's what it is. It's the access. So you have to get to, and that I think that comes back around to what we were talking about earlier, just having the self-discipline. Say, okay, this is what I use. This gets the job done. I'm going to use this. I'm sure there's like plugins or VSTs that you've been using for 10 years, but because it works, you still use it.
Yep. I'm still on battery 3.
See,
still printing, that's
what I'm saying.
Still using Pro Tools. Pro Tools is a lot better now.
If it's not broke, don't fix it.
Exactly.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it, man. And a lot of problems we create for ourselves is because we're trying to repair things that doesn't need repair.
Yes. Major key. Major fact. Major key. Wow. What's coming up next that you could mention? What do you have working on right now? In addition to the book.
So yeah, definitely the book, January the 15th. So the book will be available in ebooks format too, and that will be on Amazon, Amazing. Barnes and Noble, and Apple Books.
Amazing.
As well. Yeah, so it'll be an ebook available too. And then I'm working on getting the audiobook done as well. And so I'm looking forward to the audiobook. I will be narrating the audiobook.
Oh yeah, you gotta drink a lot of tea and water that day.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Yeah, so in addition to the book, I have some artists that I'm working with, some new artists. Amazing. Who it's not final yet, so I don't want to speak too much, but like starting like an imprint. Amazing. And just releasing a couple artists that I'm excited about. That's been the whole thing with me finding an artist, is like I knew that whatever artist that I wanted to take on, it has to be something that I'm super excited to work on, and not just signing an artist just to be signing one. So I'm super excited about this artist, man. He's ridiculous.
I can't wait.
It is, bro, it's amazing, man. So I'm super excited about that. And then with other people's projects, I've been working a lot. Well, so mainly this is kind of one of those narrowing things down. Like this year I had a lot going on, and I started putting myself in a position to where it's like telling people no to work on certain projects, because I felt like I was spreading myself thin, energy wise and focus wise. So it's 4 main projects that I've been working on, like strong, and that's Eminem, Lecrae, Lecrae's new album, J. Cole, and what am I missing?
I heard of those guys.
Eminem, J. Cole, Lecrae. Dang.
It's one of those where there's just so many, it's so overwhelming that it's like, oh wait.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, those been the main projects I've been.
Amazing. What an amazing setup for 2020.
Man, I'm excited, bro.
Yeah.
I'm super excited.
Yeah.
And yeah, man. I realized that ideas, like, you know, just having you're a living proof of this, because I love to see every time you come out with like a new pack or you got the new app, which is amazing.
Thank you.
It shows you that all of these started as nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Like literally nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And it was an idea, and you didn't allow that idea to remain hostage in your mind.
Yes.
Like you took action on that idea. And it's proof that, you know, ideas are good, but ideas without execution or ideas with execution create extreme possibilities, and it creates product. You know, so, and like I said, you're living proof of that. So I'm always inspired when you just consistently drop things, because it's like, man, that started as an idea and he acted on it. And now it's a product that he gave to the world, and now they can experience it.
Man,
you know, so I'm constantly thinking that way. You know, even with the book, it started just an idea. It's like, okay, I'm gonna commit to it. I'm gonna get it done. You know, and working on these projects, it starts with ideas that, oh, this could be dope. Let me try this, or sample packs or whatever. And it's just constantly just making sure that these ideas live outside of our head.
Yes. Exactly. And it really comes in the simplest form of, I have an idea for a beat, and then you lay the piano down or sound, and you lay the drums, and the beat's finished. And that's steps. And that the types of like you know, things that fire in your brain it comes from the same part of the brain as, I'm going to make an app, right? Because it's sort of like what you said, it's sort of like an idea, and then you act on it, and then, you know, you screw it up, and you go through trial and error, and you go through the motions, but then it becomes a natural reality, and then from there is possibility. You hit that right on the nose, man.
Yes, man, and it's one of those things to where, like he was saying earlier, just the repetition of it. Like once you do that so much, then your brain is automatically locked into doing that.
Yeah.
So you don't think about it. It's just a natural way of doing things. I have an idea. Oh, let me put it down, trial and error, figure it out, and it becomes something.
Yeah.
You know, and it's pretty evident on, you know, because there, for instance, like with you, like, okay, for instance, I was looking at the podcast that I was on of the BLAPCHAT, and it was like episode 3 or 4, I think.
Yeah, it was very early when we switched it over to the name. Yeah.
So what number episode are you on now?
We're at this is 112. Yeah, 112.
That's amazing, bro.
Yeah.
That shows consistency over time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because a lot of people start things, but they don't finish. And I think that's another thing that we know is like completion and finishing is everything, because it's so easy to start things. People can start things, but it's the ability to execute it and see it through the end.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because if you don't complete it, then it just remains still an unfinished idea.
Right. Yeah, so true.
I think that's another important part too, is being able to complete things. Yeah. And not have all these unfinished things just laying around that you can't. That's not a physical, or that's not a product yet that you can do something with.
Wow.
You know, so being able to see a product, see an idea from creation to finish is very important as well.
Right. And then it starts with envisioning it.
You have to envision it. Yes.
Yeah.
You have to.
That's one of the most major keys we've ever received here on the podcast. So I'm going to give you a little air horn. I'm saying, wow. Cannot wait for the music in 2020. I already know you're going to be all over the place.
I'm excited about because I know you got some stuff.
Man, I got to stop messing around and start. No, it's just a few things coming. Definitely excited. You know, it's one of those things where I feel like we every time we talk, it's always like the thing where it's like, well, there's an abundance of work to be done, but like you know, you kind of can't predict it. And then like there's like something happens in real time that like changes it from like a potential to like, oh wow, like I didn't know that was gonna happen too. Yeah, man. You know,
and that's so true, Ill, because like I actually talk about that in the book, and actually in our chapter, the chapter you're in, like I have a chapter with Ill in the chapter, and it's called AOOM Activated, and that basically stands for Order One Mind, which is the project we released back in 2005, 04, yeah, 05, and I speak on that because, you know, one thing that we have figured out, or that we know, is that nothing's guaranteed. You know, but we move accordingly to that now. You know, we just work and plant the seeds. And at some point, we know it's going to come back. We have no idea when it's going to happen for us or when it's going to come back to us. But we know if we keep planting the seeds, at some point, it's going to come back. You know, and I think that's something that we developed early on, because we had, you know, we would have these same talks, you know, about things that we had. And then most of it never came to fruition. Some of it did, but most of it never came from it. But that just really just taught us you just got to plant seeds and move to the next seed and not focus on these things. When they come back is when they're supposed to come back. And we have no control over that, but we do have control over the actual planting seeds. Exactly.
Facts. S, thank you so much, man, for joining me today, bro.
Oh man, I appreciate you having me, man. It means a lot, bro. And I'm super proud of everything that you've done, that you're doing right now, and that you're gonna accomplish, man. Because it's pretty obvious where you're headed,
man. Oh, likewise, man. Likewise.
You headed to the moon, man. You headed to the moon,
man. Likewise, dude. I cannot wait for all the music, man. Make sure you guys pre-order that book. Pray, Focus, Plan, Execute. Go to SymbolicOne.com. Get the pre-order version so you get all the free goodies, and make sure you cop the book, ebook, physical copy, January 15th. Pray, Focus, Plan, Execute. Symbolic One, thank you so much, man, for joining today. Legendary episode. Man, let's give a round of applause to Symbolic One. Bro. Thank you, my G. We'll talk soon.
All right, have a good one, man.
You too, brother.
I'll be talking to you soon, of course.
Yes. All right, dude.
All right, bro.
Peace.
All right, peace.
Shout to my boy, man, Symbolic One. Hopefully you guys got some some insight from that, some value from the conversation. My man S1 has been at it for a very long time. You heard the people he's working with now and all the stuff he's done, and just so much insight. I can't wait to get the book. Can't wait to read it. Honored to have my own chapter in there. Yeah, man. What a great episode. Really just want to continue to bring you guys value. Like I said, man, all the stuff we talked about earlier in this episode, I really, really meant from my soul, and it's funny that part of that conversation also bled into my conversation with Symbolic One, but let's not overcomplicate things. Let's not be too overwhelmed by doing this. Keep it simple. If you want to be a music production, you want to produce, just get in there and produce, man. Enjoy, prioritize the joy, get yourself into flow. Don't worry so much. Don't over strategize, overcomplicate. And I promise you, the answers will come and things will start to reveal themselves, just like we talked about in that little X factor that you cannot predict, that you have no control over. You have to allow for the universe to present that X factor to you, and it's going to be different for every person, right? It's different for S1. It was different for me. It's going to be different for you too. So do the work, allow for those hidden X factors to manifest in your journey. And then you could plan accordingly and start to maneuver in that way. So shout to you guys, man. Shout to our subscribers. Welcome to our new listeners. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, that repost button. And we will see you at the next episode. This is BLAPCHAT. I'm Illmind. We're signing off. Peace.